Hey everybody, Cole here with Toyota Tacoma DIY, the spin-off series on Classic Mini DIY. Today I'm going to be talking about how to hardwire a dash cam into your Toyota Tacoma 3rd gen or newer. Alright, so first things first, all you're going to want to do is take off this A-pillar panel off of your A-pillar. And this is actually probably going to be the hardest part of the job. I mean, the majority of this work is simply concealing wires. It's not an incredibly difficult job, and the way that we are connecting to the battery is also quite simple. It's pretty cool how it all works. But first things first, we're going to pop this little cover off here, and that is going to expose the bolt underneath this. Now, keep in mind, these bolts are 10mm bolts, and they're the same size on both the front A-pillars. Now, you can also see I'm using a panel puller tool right here, and this is a simple composite tool, and it's meant specifically to prevent marring and cutting into the panels that are on your truck. So let's expose this, and we'll go ahead and take this off. And now, once you do that, there's a small plastic tab that comes unpopped when you take this off. You can put this off to the side, and there you can see all of the wonderful wires that we have on our A panel. Now, you have things like your airbag right here, as well as all sorts of other plugs that run up to lights and various other ancillary items in your car. Now, we won't have to touch any of these. If you have a sunroof, you'll also probably see the rain gutter right here, which is kind of funny if you think about it. The fact that the gutter runs down inside your car just to dump that water outside. But from here, we'll be able to run the wire up cleanly, nicely, and easily all the way over to the dash cam. Now, the reason we're taking this off is because we run the wire down behind the dash over here into a fuse box that is below the dash. So let's jump down there. I'll show you guys this fuse box, and I'll show you how to wire up this dash cam. All right, so what you can see here is we are underneath the dash, and we're looking at our fuse panel. This fuse panel sits just behind the hood pop latch, and it has a small cover on it, which you will see in a pop-up image over my finger. And this has all of the fuses that are inside your car. Now, you'll notice one is missing here, and the reason it's missing is because I've already taken it out. And what this fuse went to was your washers. This fuse is used to control the washer motors, and it has a 30-amp fuse in it. So if you took that out and you didn't do anything else, you would be removing power to your washer motors. But in this case, we're going to be using something called add-a-fuse. And this add-a-fuse allows us to hardwire our dash cam directly into our electrical system, piggybacking off of a fuse that already exists. Now, in this case, I've already got this wired up. It's quite simple. You can see here, it's got a fuse built into it. And for this dash cam, this cable is actually custom to the dash cam I have in my car. Now, if you don't have the dash cam that's linked in the description below, there are add-a-fuse systems, and you just have to run one line, the red line, to the hot end on a 12-volt socket. And then this one as well has a wire that's connected to this ground. This is where the dash cam is getting grounded out and meeting with the body of the chassis and running to the ground on your battery. Now, that's very important because if you don't have that, the dash cam isn't going to function. It has to be grounded. So what we'll go ahead and do is return this plug to that fuse slot, and it's probably going to get dark here for a minute. There we go. And you can see here that plugs right in, and this provides the existing fuse functionality, and then there's a secondary fuse on this line that's a little bit kind of stuck back here. You can't quite see it. And that is a glass fuse, an inline fuse on that line. So then you're just going to take your wires and run it up the side of your car. This side that we're looking at right here is right above your driver's side wheel. And then I found the easiest thing was to get like a little stick or a little grabber tool and to drop it down from the side right there in the corner. And then you can actually grab that wire and pull it back up and through this little hole so that we can run it all the way up to our dash cam. Now, the next part we're looking at here, and it's a little difficult to show with the sun out, but this is the space right above the top of your windshield. And you can actually stuff the wire back behind this soft felt section here. And I found using this panel puller tool actually worked pretty well I can just stuff that wire back behind that all the way over to where the dash cam is plugged in and mounted to our windshield. So let's move over to the dash cam and I'll show you guys how that's mounted up there and how you guys can mount it in your 3rd gen Tacoma. All right, so now what we're looking at is the right side of our Tacoma. Now, ordinarily, there is a GoPro mount mounted right here, and that can actually be used for quite a large amount of dash cams. But in the case of the dash cam that I have, because I wanted a rear camera and I wanted this camera to kind of mount up against the windshield and be really tight and tidy up there, I ended up pulling that GoPro mount off, which was quite a lot of prying and slow patience. But the way I did that was simply by taking a panel puller and pushing underneath the mount and prying. Now the important thing is, if you're going to take that GoPro mount off, is that you take your time. There's no need to pry it off immediately. Let it kind of work its way off. The adhesive that they use is the same adhesive that they use for your rear view mirrors, and because of that, it takes quite a lot of energy to get that adhesive off. So don't rush through it, just take your time and it will come off when it comes off. But once you've taken it off, in my case, I mounted another adhesive mount right here. Now, you can kind of see there's a little bit of adhesive left from the GoPro mount, but it's not the end of the world because the camera I have actually covers this up. And you can see I've actually run the wire up underneath this safety system, as well as just a little over this rear view mirror mounting system. It's pretty straightforward. That process isn't too difficult. And then you can see there's a secondary wire here. And that wire is actually going to the rear camera, which I'll show you guys how to mount up and run a wire to here shortly. But let's go ahead and mount this dash cam up here, and you guys can see what this looks like with the dash cam mounted. Now there you have it. Dash cam is mounted up. It just slides into that bracket, and then you can see here I've plugged both of my wires in here. Unfortunately, this dash cam doesn't come with two 90-degree cables. That would have been really, really nice, but in this case, this is okay for now, and I can always run another cable if I want to later on in the future. That's nice, tidy, up and out of the way. As you can see here, your passenger still has the ability to see out the windshield, and it's kind of out of the way for your standard everyday driving. Now, let's move on to the side panel here. Now, in the same way that we took the panel off on the other side, this one has simply 2 bolts that you need to take out. Your panel puller will go in and pry these covers off right here, and then there will be 2 10mm bolts behind those. Pretty straightforward, and then this pops off the same way that the other side did. And then you'll be able to run your rear camera wire up underneath the top of your windshield and then down this A-pillar and ultimately down the bottom of your car and along the door sill. So let's jump outside the car and I'll show you where that wire runs along the side of your car. So now that we're at the bottom side of your car, this process is pretty straightforward. It's just like stuffing the wire in at the top of the windshield. You're going to just kind of push this wire underneath, so you're going to run it down and then push it underneath these panels here along your door sill. I found that it was not necessary to take these panels off. You can use your panel pry tool and simply push that wire underneath the panel here without having to disconnect all of this stuff. And then you just keep moving your way back to the back door, and then just like the front, you're running it, pressing it underneath all of this panel here, and then you're going to run it up the side here and behind this chair, which I'll show you. Now the cool thing about the Tacoma is that these rear seats actually fold down and there's storage behind them. But what that also means is that there's a void of space, and we're actually able to run the lines up the back side here and to a rear mounted camera. Now the Tacoma is not the most conducive vehicle for a rear mounted camera. Obviously there's a big old truck bed back there, but I still get a nice rear view of whoever's coming from behind me, at least before they hit the rear of my car. Now wiring this camera up in the back is even easier than wiring it up in the front. As you can see, I just kind of set the wire there, I let it run up the side, and then I simply ran it up inside this pillar, which I guess in the truck this is your C pillar, and then it runs up and connects to the camera, which is a little askew right now, but that's okay. We can fix that pretty easily. And there we have it, a nice rear view camera. All right, and with that, that wraps up this episode of Toyota Tacoma DIY. And now, as you can see the dash cam a little bit from the front of the car, but overall it's actually pretty concealed here. It's not too bad, and it doesn't really take up, any sort of viewing space in the front of your car. But if you guys have any questions about the stuff that I use in this video, how to install it, what kind of footage you can expect with it, post in the comment section below. If you like this video, if you like seeing stuff on my Tacoma, give it a thumbs up, let me know that you like it, and I'll keep doing these kinds of videos. But to finish this off, I figured I would cap it off with some fun dashcam footage of somebody getting really mad at me when I wouldn't turn in front of a fire truck today. So enjoy that footage, and I will see you guys on the next Classic Mini DIY video or Tacoma DIY video. Have a wonderful day.